SaaS Therapy.
Welcome to SaaS Therapy. My name is Trujillo, and again, thank you for joining me for this SaaS Therapy short where we take just 5 minutes and recap the previous episode. If you don't have time for 45 minutes, let's give you a 5-minute update. So last week, I was joined by Roger Mendez from Cisco, Doug Norton from Bill.com, Alyssa Swanson from Spiff, who was recently acquired from Salesforce, and Kate Sharp with Brainstorm. And we had a fantastic discussion around how do you do more with less. We know in today's environment, people are consistently talking to us. Our leadership is saying, hey, we just can't afford that right now. But you're like, wait a second, we're more profitable than we've ever been. That's beside the point. We all recognize that we're being asked to do something more with less than what we have today. So what I want to do is recap 4 insights as I asked that question to our guests and their feedback to the audience. So number 1 was from Roger Mendez, and I thought this was so brilliant. He said, pick off something that's really easy. As you're asking more to do more with less, maybe there's a customer success manager that has created an ROI PowerPoint that they've used that's been incredibly effective, but you've never had time to really look at it, put it into a programmatic process and give that out to all of your CS team. Maybe there's things that have actually been built that are sitting right around you that have had impact for a customer success manager, but that you could expand upon. Maybe if you're in customer education, it's simply as putting in a survey at the start of your education and asking, what do you want to learn about? So you have better data so you can actually send the right information to your customers instead of just giving them a blanket email with all sorts of information. Again, there might be things you've already done that you just need to expand upon. So I love that from Roger. Number 2, Alyssa Swanson talked about this from Spiff, where she talked about one of the things that she focuses on is if she is going to take on a new project or take on an initiative, she makes sure that that's aligns to the business objectives of her leader and then her leader's leader and then leadership. So she's consistently looking at that. Why create a process or a program or some type of initiative that is not aligning to what leadership actually wants to have happen? From there, Kate Sharp, Kate Sharp, I've worked with her for some time. She said one that I don't like to do, but I think, and I can see the wisdom in what she said, involve the naysayers. Involve that person that sometimes maybe you don't want to hear from, but the naysayers actually see something from a different perspective. They will really, and usually will bring up something that maybe you're turning a blind eye to, and that you really don't want to understand at this point because it might set you back a little bit, right? So involve the naysayers, allow them to give you feedback around the process or the new initiative or whatever you might be implementing, and allow them to have that time to talk to you about what they're seeing from their point of view. The last one is from Doug Norton at Bill.com. And he had 2 things that I thought were important for us to understand as we're doing more with less. Number 1, he said you have to decide if this is a one-way door or a 2-way door type initiative. A one-way door is you're going through this door and there's no turning back. You're changing the way that you do your initial onboarding experience. You're all in, and this is a one-way door. In his opinion, you need to give that more time. You need to allow yourself some grace as you're going through that. You're putting something with a longer length of time to say, okay, should we pivot? Should we change? Too often when we do a one-way door experience or change, we don't give it enough time for it to play out the way that it should. And we immediately start correcting things that maybe it was just one data point, and maybe the majority of the data points are actually going to point us in the right direction with this initiative. So he said if it's not a one-way door, then it's a 2-way door. And a 2-way door is you can always go back. So you implement a new type of EBR and you're testing it in a certain vertical. That could be a 2-way door. And that one you want to iterate and gather information fast, maybe 30 days, maybe after 4 or 5 meetings, and be able to come back and make a determination of is this something that should be switched into a one-way door? Is there still more that we need to work on and experiment with? Do we need to just parking lot it? Maybe it was a good experiment, but we're going to take these learnings and maybe do it at a different time. The last thing that Doug said, and I'm giving him one more, is in no matter what you're doing, when you're doing more with less, you can't be emotionally tied to the results. You can't feel that if you make a change, and you have to help your team members feel this also. If you make a change, that it's not a reflection of that individual or from yourself. If it's positive or negative, it's just information, and you have to be able to separate yourself from that. And I'm going to give you an example. I was just at the CS 100 conference. So they bring in the top 100 customer success people that sign up for this workshop. It's held by clientsuccess.com. Shout out to Dave Blake and all the work that he does. And they had a special guest, Noelle Picus Pace. She's an Olympian in the skeleton in the Winter Olympics. So the one that you're like an inch from the ground and you're just riding on your belly and you're going up to 90 miles per hour. What a story. She brought in her silver medal. We got to see it. And she told her story. And it's one I never heard. She talked about she was ranked number 1 in the world at the time. And she just run a practice run. And they were on the track and some other people were on the track. And a bobsled team came down. They didn't see him, didn't put on the brakes. She last attempt, she's trying to jump off the track. She gets hit, flipped in the air, breaks her leg. It's going to set her back a year. She works through that. She goes to the Olympics again, and she takes 4th place by 1/10 of a second. 1/10 of a second. She's not on the podium. She doesn't get a bronze medal, right? She doesn't get a silver medal. She doesn't get a gold medal. 1/10 of a second. And she said she retired right then and there. It made her sick. It was some time before she knew she wanted to go back and look at her runs. You do 4 runs in the skeleton. And she went back and she took a look, and immediately she spot what the problem was. It was her shoelace. Her shoelace was creating drag. It was too long, and it was that 1/10 of a second that cost her. Now, the reason why I bring that up at the end is I think the advice that we received from Roger and from Melissa and from Kate and from Doug, there's a shoestring drag we probably have in our business. And as we do more with less, the impact that it could have on the business just by being open and curious to looking at making the change could mean everything between being a 10th off and hitting the times and the records that we want. So we're on that podium, which she went and she accomplished. So thank you for, again, being an audience member. It was so great to meet so many of you at CS 100. And as I'm out and traveling, it's awesome to see people come up and say, I love the podcast. Keep it up. Well, thanks to you. Please keep sharing this with your friends, your colleagues. We enjoy having you, and we really appreciate all the stories that we hear as you are saving your most important relationships, the relationships with your customers. So thank you for joining me, Casey Trujillo, with SaaS Therapy.
SaaS Therapy is brought to you by Brainstorm, the SaaS platform for SaaS adoption. Learn more at brainstorminc.com.